This morning, the bipartisan debt ceiling bill, officially known as the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2023, is now law. Here is President Biden signing the bill yesterday, just days before the U.S. was set to default on its debt. It outlines how to handle unspent COVID relief funds, adds work requirements for some government benefits, and it eliminates over $1 billion in IRS funding. Joining me now is Todd from NBC's Meet the Press. Good morning, Chuck.
Hey, good morning, Christy.
So at the end of the day, this debt ceiling agreement, it's not a major piece of legislation, but both President Biden and Speaker McCarthy can claim victories here. But is that going to be enough to satisfy the critics within each man's own party?
I don't think long term it does per se, but I do think it probably mutes progressives among the Democrats more so than it mutes the right wing. You have, every presidential candidate came out against the deal, and you had all those senators. So I do think the politics of this deal on the right is more negative than the politics of this deal on the left. I think long term, this probably, if it's politically helpful to either side, it's really more helpful to President Biden because it's not as if there's a lot of benefits for him in this bill, but the deficits or the minuses that would have come with not getting this deal, even if they could have politically blamed the Republicans, you could say, oh, they started it. The president's the guy in the captain's chair, running the country. And and he made the promise that he could work with the other side. So I think in some ways, this is the deal he cut with swing voters in 2020. And so if he couldn't land this deal, I think it would have been politically catastrophic for him.
So we are less than a week away now from the Georgia State Republican Convention, which will feature former President Donald Trump. But there will be no Governor Brian Kemp, no Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and no former Vice President Mike Pence. Instead, Kari Lake, who lost her race for governor of Arizona and who has challenged those election results, will be here. So it appears this is still a state party of those who support Mr. Trump and those who are trying to move on. And it appears that'll carry into 2024.
You know, in many ways, the Georgia Republican Party split that you're describing and the fact that the apparatus of the party is in the hands of sort of MAGA world, even as the leaders of the Republican Party in Georgia are distinctly sort of either not or less MAGA, if you will. It's something that we see play out actually in a lot of swing states where the party apparatus has some real, far right folks in charge, but the rank and file is not nearly as far right. I do think this is a fascinating time for the state convention. There's quite a few people involved in the Georgia Republican Party who could end up facing charges for the role they played in the fake electors and what the Fulton County prosecutor is investigating right now. So I understand why people like Mike Pence and Brian Kemp, who were both sort of familiar with the investigation, might not be a good place for them to be. And if it is a place that's dominated by the election deniers, well, why go somewhere where you're going to get booed as well? But, Governor Kemp, it's very interesting. Let's just say that a lot of people in Washington thought it was an interesting tweet he sent about Kim Jong-un. There's no doubt that there's many a Republican in Washington who thinks Brian Kemp might be a pretty good pitcher warming up in the bullpen should Ron DeSantis fall on his face. Just something to think about.
It is an interesting time. All right, Chuck, thanks so much. Meet the Press airs at 10, right after 11 Alive Weekend Morning News.